San Diego 6 News in the morning.
And divorce is always difficult, but in rare cases, it can get violent, even deadly. Our next guest is here with some life-saving advice to help people get out of a dangerous relationship.
It appears that the filing of a divorce set in motion a series of events this past weekend that led to 3 people dying and an El Cajon police officer being shot. And we wanted to find out if there's some way that we can see these things maybe in advance, or at least try to predict and prevent some of the things that lead to these types of tragedies. So Myra Fleischer joins us this morning. She's a family law attorney and family law specialist here. Women who file for divorce are at higher risk for domestic violence, are they not?
Absolutely. We do see occasionally there is a man who is a victim of domestic violence, but 90% or more of the time it's the woman.
More often than not. And I was looking at one of these statistics that you sent in here, and I was kind of shocked at the timing of this. 2 weeks after a woman files for divorce is the peak risk period?
Absolutely, because even when there is no domestic violence during the relationship, maybe there are threats or there's anger, there's arguments, sometimes the other party doesn't want the divorce or is shocked by the divorce. There is what I call situational violence that occurs right around the time that the divorce is occurring, and people act in ways that they don't normally act. So there is a higher incidence of violence right around the time that the divorce is filed.
Now, in the case of the Colliers out in El Cajon, we don't really know all the circumstances surrounding that, but what we do know is she filed for divorce at some point, and there was emails exchanged and an escalation of bad feelings that culminated in this tragic incident here where the child was killed, the mother-in-law, and then Kevin Collier either took his own life or perished in that fire and shot a police officer.
Right.
That's certainly not the way, you know, most of these things go, obviously. But there are indicators in relationships, are there not, that if you are going to file for divorce, that maybe you better take some extra precautions?
Absolutely. The statistics are that 1 in 5 relationships report at the end of the relationship that there has been some violence. And then there are all the other non-reported cases that we don't hear about. But at the end of a relationship, if you feel that there is going to be some violence, you need to make some sort of an exit strategy, either with an attorney or with a family member, with somebody that you trust, to figure out what you're going to do. If you feel threatened in any way, how are you going to get out? Do you have money? Do you want to make sure that you have the other party not know where you are, what happens to your children, things like that?
I mean, it's sad that we have to talk in these terms, but again, obviously this happens. Now, another statistic that absolutely floored me was that, that this 75% greater risk of severe injury when a woman who has been battered leaves the relationship.
Yes.
She's at 75% greater risk of severe injury for leaving.
Yes.
Which kind of explains some of the mentality of why women stay with batterers sometimes, is that they feel, oh, it'll be worse if I leave. Statistics bear that out.
Absolutely, and an even more shocking statistic is that the average battered woman, we're talking somebody who has a history of being battered, tries to leave almost, I think it's 6 or 7 times before they actually get out. And if they don't get out, they are killed.
Okay, so obviously folks need some expert help and things like this. What would be your advice then?
If you are being battered and you don't have a trusted family member to go to, get to a shelter. Get somebody who will help you. Take your children out of that situation, because you're just going to repeat the pattern of abuse in their adulthood. Get your children out of there. Get to somewhere that you are protected, where the person who is battering you does not know where you are. If you can get to an attorney who can help you get to an exit strategy, do that. There are plenty of different organizations, like I work with Project Sarah at the Jewish Family Service, who helps women who are having domestic violence issues. There are programs that I work with, like Speak for Success, that help women after the fact, after they get back on their feet. There's lots of different ways that, and there's plenty of shelters in and around San Diego. You can call the police department. They will help you.
Well, that's an interesting point. But in a little bit of time we have left, I want to talk about temporary restraining orders. And there's several different types of these. You know, and too often we hear, well, there was a temporary restraining order against this person, but then they still got to the victim and committed an act of violence upon them. That's no reason to not seek one of these orders, because they serve some very good purposes still. We don't want a false sense of security, but But what purpose do they serve then?
The purpose that they serve is, even though it's just a piece of paper and it doesn't control the batterer who is going to necessarily violate the restraining order, the thing that the restraining order does is it gives you protection. When you call the police and you call 911 as soon as that violation occurs, the police can then take that person into custody. It is that layer of protection that creates the criminal act of the violation. So that person then is taken into custody and cannot do it again.
And the police really have a sense of, when you call and say, my violent ex is here and I have a temporary restraining order, they know that there's been some history there, and they kind of they have a better idea of what they may be getting into as well.
Immediately when I file a restraining order, a copy of that from the courthouse is on record with the Sheriff's Department. So when you call and say, I have a violation of a restraining order, they can bring that up in their system. Computers are a curse and a wonderful thing for us. They bring it up in the system. They know there's been a violation, and they just come and they take that person away. Well,
Myra Fleischer, again, thank you so much. I know you'd be happy if folks got in touch with you if they had any questions.
Absolutely. My website is FleischerLawOffice.com, but I'd be happy if they just got away from the situation. Nobody deserves to be hurt.
Well, thanks for some really good information surrounding some unbelievably horrific circumstances.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, for more information, as always, you go to san diego6.com and you just click on Hot Topics.